Welcome to the podcast here on Blue Your Soul. We're here with Jay Corrales and Hans. They are a team duo. They have their podcast. They also worked on a film together called Mass State Lottery. One in particular I am very excited to see. Man, how are you guys doing? Thank you for coming to the show. I really appreciate it.
Doing fantastic. Thank you for that very high energy open. I like that. That's good.
Oh, yeah. Very, very high energy here. How did you meet? Are you brothers? Are you friends? Like, where did this start?
Hans is my dad. Most people don't know that. Hans, I think you're muted, by the way, which is nothing new.
Hey, there it is. Hello. We've known each other for what, like 20 years now, right? No,
We've
like
known
15?
each other for 11 years.
11 years. Well,
That's a long time.
Yeah.
And we met on Tumblr because we were part of the very small Opie and Anthony fandom on tumblr.com back in 2012, 2013, whenever that was. So actually, we might have known each other longer than 11 years.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's like 15. I think closer to 15. And then I don't even remember how they started. I think you had a bunch of podcasts before, and then you had me on one of them as a guest, and then we just started talking more regularly since, I think.
Yeah, we were part of like a little collective on there, and everybody in that collective started not talking to each other for some reason or another. And Hans just kind of hung out in the background of whatever it was that I was doing. And I think I just said to you one day, I was like, hey, do you want to come on this show? And then we started recording, and then we realized, oh yeah, we tried to do a podcast years ago that was like current events and politics, and neither one of us is that interested in politics, so it completely fell apart and dissipated. And it was not just he and I, it was like 5 of us. And we realized it was like, we're the only 2 showing up, and we don't even like talking about this subject. So fuck all this. Actually, we didn't even jump into movies because you didn't join as co-host for like 30 episodes. So then eventually it wound up being a co-host situation with a different show.
Because you mainly just go like check out, like review movies on your podcast. Like,
yeah. So the podcast that I started, Movies, which is now called Movies, a podcast about the active cinema, because if you type in movies in any podcast search engine, you're not going to find fucking anything with my name on it. I started that in 2018, and it was supposed to be like an NPR style show. So I would write up an essay about a movie, and then I would read the essay, and it evolved into, I don't like writing this much, so why don't I just bring in a guest and we'll talk about a movie. And then Hans was a repeat guest and a substitute co-host a few times. And eventually I was just like, this would be a hell of a lot easier if I had a co-host and you're not doing anything. At the time, the other 2 guys in our sketch comedy group had their own podcasts that they were doing. So I was like, all right, we're just going to integrate Hans. And then Hans became show staple.
Hell yeah. So when did you start working on performance art together, like films and acting together? Was that like simultaneous with the podcasting?
No, before.
Yeah,
like
it was before.
Or a year or 2 before the podcast started. Yeah.
In January 2017, I abandoned my publishing company, Clash Books, that I created, and I left that in the hands of a couple that had a pretty good hand on managing all of the titles that were coming out. And I was like, this doesn't really interest me. So why don't I go to YouTube? Why don't I start doing shorts and sketches? Because I was dabbling in that for 3 years before. I had failed at making a film twice, not realizing how difficult that was to write a full script, get a reliable cast, and then do everything for
a feature.
Yes, 2 features I flopped at for many different reasons. And I was like, you know what? Why don't we just do sketch comedy? And so we started putting out comedy sketches on the YouTube channel, and that evolved into a regular thing because some of them were pretty successful at generating views and getting comments and new subscribers. And at the same time, I was also doing video essays on films, which kind of preceded the podcast. And then we turned our sketch comedy into a YouTube series called Comfort Systems that really went on for 6 episodes. And then there were 3 specials that followed. And it was Hans and I working in tandem remotely. And I had a guy here who was part of our sketch comedy group who was also a filmmaker. We worked together on that. We had another comedian / actor, a guy named Speed, who was also in our sphere of things. And then we met somebody named Jerry Jensen, who goes by I'm Bloom Online. He's a Twitch streamer now. And he joined the collective as well. And so the 5 of us together started putting out these sketches and making them 20 to 30-minute episodes. And that was the launch of us doing scripted video content.
What type of like comedy would you do? I haven't seen these before, but like what would you get into there?
How would you describe it, Hans? I've been doing most of the talking.
I don't even know how to. I guess online type of comedy, uncensored type of boundary pushing type of type of make it. Yeah, I guess just make fun of everyone, no matter who it is.
It was very racist and surrealism mixed into one. Really, if David Lynch was very racist, maybe something like that. But it was very in vein of like Tim and Eric, but also we were honing in on early internet aesthetics with it. So that played a part. And yeah, I mean, that was pretty much the vibe.
And when did Mass State Lottery spark and ignite?
So we put out Comfort Systems in 2019, and we did the 6 episodes of that. And during that time, as we were shooting sketches, I was feeling kind of disenchanted with doing small form content or non-linear narrative content. I was like, I want to do a movie next. I want to try it one more time. And if this doesn't work, then it's just not in the cards. And I started writing a script for Mass State Lottery, which at the time was called Hobgoblin. And we got it into production in early 2020 with almost no money at all. It was Hans, Jerry, and Jacob A. Miller, who is the other guy in our collective, who's a filmmaker. He lives in Texas now, and he does short films, and he's got a feature he's working on this November. Basically putting in our own money. They paid for their own flights. We got a BNB, and I paid for like the locations and what have you. But the first go around, there were hardly any locations. It was very run and gun. It was like, okay, we're going to sleep in the morning, and then we're going to go out at 2 a.m. and shoot at this location and do this and that. But the idea of it was always based on the Boston's Vanishing Men story, because in Boston for almost every year around the same time, there would be a young white male, skinny, athletic college student who would go to a bar and then leave the bar for whatever random reason, whether it made sense or not, no coat sometimes in the middle of winter, and they would wind up going in the opposite direction of wherever they lived and be found in the Charles River, which is a big body of water in Boston. And
wow, that's crazy. I never heard of that.
Yeah, I mean, it gets lumped in now with the smiley face killer theory. Which
have you seen the movie on that?
Yes, I did, and I was like, "How they fucking beat me to the punch in getting this?" That came out in like 2020. And it's Bret Easton Ellis who did it too. Oh, you're killing me.
Because he had a bunch of scripts lying around. Like he would sell scripts like all the time to people in Hollywood, and they never get made. And this random fucking movie. It's not even that good of a movie, anyways. But
no, it's not. It's from the same guy who did River's Edge. I think his name is Tim something. He's a solid director. But I watched that movie and I was like, okay, the whole vibe of the case here, the smiley face killer, is supposed to be like Northeast, and they moved it to California because why? Everybody's in California.
Homoerotic. It's so.
Oh yeah.
Even as a bisexual, I think it was just a bit too gay. With all due respect.
Let me tell you, just wait for Mass State Lottery.
Lots of bromance. A little bit of docking.
I think it's a little bit more than a bro. I don't know. It might be a one-sided. Actually, half the characters in Mass State Lottery, all the characters are gay except for me.
Yeah, weird. It's like the opposite of real life.
But I saw that movie and I was like, oh no. But then I watched it and I was like, yeah, people are gonna forget about this movie immediately. And the Boston's Vanishing Men story I think is its own thing, but it gets lumped into the smiley face killers theory, and they cover New York, Philadelphia, Minnesota, and it's like this. Oh, and you see these FBI agents or former cops who are like, "There's a secret network of killers on the dark web, and they do it." And it's just like, shut the fuck! You don't know what you're talking about. It's old men trying to make sense of the dark web and get a TV show sold to Bravo. But the missing cases in Boston, I think there's something to that, and it always stuck with me. And also, I was around the same age. I was like 25 years old when that started happening.
Yeah, you're from Boston, yeah.
Yes, I am. And at the time that started, like 3 missing young men in, I had the idea of wanting to do a documentary on it, but I didn't have the means or really the skill to pull that off at that time. And so it was just this lingering idea at the back of my head, and I finally explored it with Mass State Lottery.
Hans, where are you from?
It's I was born in Mexico, but I live in Costa Rica. That's where my base of operations is, where I do everything over here, where everything is cheaper. What I was gonna say is that the movie has changed a lot, though. It's gone through, I feel like, 3 or 4 different movies, and now it is the best version what we got now. But I feel like what we started with has changed so much that I couldn't even tell you what the script was like at the beginning when I first got there. Well, first because I didn't read it in the plane like I said I was gonna, and then I showed up and I was like, wait, I don't know any lines.
Night one, we have Hans acting, and he's so like if I ever released the early takes, he would look so nervous and sweaty, and there's like no reason. It's like me, although he hadn't met me or the 2 other guys who were part of the crew before, so I kind of understand. But
yeah. And I didn't read the script because I was like, I'll just read it in the plane. And I just slept in the plane. So then when I got there, I was like, well, I'm sure I'll have time today. And he was like, well, we're shooting like right now. And I was like, fuck.
Thank God that version of you on screen disappeared after the first night. And then also we made up for it in reshoots the next year. So that will never be shown in the movie. This is supposed to be Hans in the movie, by the way, folks. Beware this man. And Hans really did start to come into his own as the character, I'd say, a few days into shooting, and all of that nervousness disappeared. Kind of because, it really just had to. We were working 12-hour days, 14-hour days, and it was pretty grueling.
It was also the first time that I ever acted where I was not holding the camera, too. So that, along with learning lines that I should have learned, but I didn't learn, that I had to learn like 30 seconds before saying them, and then just meeting them for the first time was just, it took me a couple of days, but I think we pulled it off at the end. Especially the second go. The second go was just like,
the second go is seamless.
Yeah, just
muscle
sailing, man. Yeah.
Now, Jay, you acted in this. I mean, both of you have roles behind and in front of the camera in this. So I want to, because I recently acted and directed in my own short film, and it was
nice,
fucking hard.
Yeah.
It was so hard. So how do you 2 manage being behind the camera and in front of the camera at the same time?
Yeah, I'll let you answer that one. Because,
Well, there's a number of phases that principal photography of Mass State Lottery went through because of COVID. So when we started shooting, it was March 2020. And that was like peak time for everything shutting down. And we had no idea. We're all camped out at this Airbnb.
We got it, I think. Right?
Yeah, we definitely got it. 3 of us were sick. Hans, myself, and Jake were sick and sneezing and coughing and just miserable. And, meanwhile, COVID is this big subject, and none of us are taking it seriously. None of us really, are seeing signs of it in Massachusetts that places are shutting down. But then I get back to New York, and I'm walking through Penn Station, and it looks like I Am Legend, the Will Smith movie. I was like,
that's crazy.
Oh, people are taking this seriously. This is kind of nuts. And then you're out on the street and New York's completely empty, except like one very tall schizophrenic man in like a cloak. And it's like, I got to get the fuck out of here. I got to get home and you start to believe in it and you start to buy it. But the film had to stop. So we shot for 8 or 9 days in Massachusetts. And then I had to pick up different scenes with another actor, Nicholas Joroff, and an actress named Sheila Ball, in New York. It was always planned that way, but COVID made it stretched out a little bit longer than we had hoped. And I would say that the what I relied on most the first go around was that Jake was going to be my eyes and ears when I was in front of the camera. Jake does his own short films. He's got a feature in the works. He's got experience behind the camera. He knows what he's doing. So I felt confident about that. And then everything that followed that week, I was my own cinematographer essentially, but I would bully my girlfriend into being the cameraman for everything. So we would go out and we would shoot, and it would be very empty outside. So it would be opportune. It's a very comfortable situation to not be performative in front of strangers. And I handled almost about 85% of the movie that way. Then we picked up shooting in November of 2021 to do some reshoots on the film. And it was more like the first go around, although I feel like I had more of a hands-on matter with the camera, because I tried to make it so that I was not going to be acting too much during that stretch. I wanted to be mostly behind the camera and get more of Hans and get more of Jerry's character in the film and a couple of other things. So it's a difficult thing to manage, but because we were working on such a limited budget, I think the final budget for the movie honestly came in at like $9,000 total.
9,000, just nine. It looks
Just
really
9,000.
fucking good for a
thank
$9,000
you.
movie. Yeah, like when I saw the trailer the first time, I was like, "Fuck!" Like,
And
this
mind
is
you,
like some, because I'm not even gonna lie, like I like that, like, I don't know, like it reminded me, and you probably have gotten this before, maybe like it reminded me of Good Time and like Uncut Gems, and I really like those movies. And they're not like some deep indie type of movies. I know there were some pretty big movies, but you know, it reminded me of shit like that. Like, you know, yeah.
that's a high compliment. I obviously I love Good Time because I cast Buddy, and that was huge, you know. So I thank you for saying that. I'd say you know, with the budget and everything, we raised $7,000 for reshoots for that November shoot. So we were really operating like out of pocket, and it was $2,000 probably mostly for the B&B, which is about half that. The first go around. So
yeah, because we decided to splurge, right? We went from a bachelor to a 1-bedroom. So we had a 1-bedroom.
by the way, we thought we booked a 1-bed. We thought, all right, we're gonna have enough space with the B&B. It's gonna be a 1-bedroom. 2 guys can sleep in the bedroom together, obviously, and 2 guys can sleep in the living room. Oh no! We booked a
The
studio
studio?
apartment.
No.
4 adult men in 1 studio apartment for 9 days or something like that.
Yeah,
It stunk.
Outrageous.
the
That's
worst
amazing.
smelling room. Yeah, in the history of that whole town, I think.
Stinky bowls type shit.
Everything. Well, my farts, because I was eating American treats that I didn't have over here. So, so that
Yeah,
made it
I
a lot
can't.
worse.
Like when I'm with the homies, I fart. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
When I'm
Well,
with the like with ladies, you know, there's a whole different side of my hygienicness. You know what I'm saying, bro?
You gotta
Like,
disguise that. Yeah.
yeah, like, yeah. Damn, that must have been horrible. But it must have been like a good bad. You know what I'm saying? Like a good memory type shit. You know what I'm saying?
Well, we got a lot of stories out of it.
that I think this is probably the best way to make your first movie. I think when you're doing it with a group of people that kind of know what they're doing, so that they can support you, and also people that you are familiar with, so that if you ask them to, you know, oh, there's gonna be a scene where you have to lay on the ground in the middle of winter and be cold or whatever, or you know, there's a scene where one of our actors is just sitting in the cold for what felt like an hour and a half, and he never complained. And I feel like having a small group of collaborators for your first movie, where you're trying to figure out how everything works and to do it as best as you can, I think is, I mean, he will tell you, but I think it's probably the best way of learning how to do your first movie. I think, because now, like the things you learn from just messing up, or just like things that went wrong because of that reason, I think you won't repeat them on the second go, and it was in a comfortable environment, I think.
Yeah, I would definitely second that. Hans is absolutely right. There's a benefit to working with people that you know beforehand. I know a lot of people get started working with their friends and their family, and I think that's a good approach to get your first one done. But you also don't want to get stuck in that, because you can see people who did do that and they continue to do that and they don't really level up because they can't find a challenge in other things. That's not to say you got to stop working with people you're familiar with. I think there's an opportunity for growth, and then you can bring these people back into the fold and start to integrate and help them level up as well. I did that. But also I wanted to add too, earlier when you asked, since you noted that you had also directed and acted in a short film, a lot of that is just the choice to act in it is maybe a little bit out of ego. Maybe I like being the leading man of my own movie. But there's also the necessity aspect of, okay, I don't have to hit somebody up if I got to reshoot this scene, or if I have a new idea in my head, well, I'm the guy. So being able to do that was especially clutch with this film, where it evolved so much in the edit, and I handled it more like writing a novel than I did handling a feature film, which is not how you should do a movie. And that's also why it took 4 years. But at the same time, it saved the film and made it a much better version of itself.
Spacing it apart too, like it can allow you to like take a break and kind of recalculate shit. Like I remember I did my first like weekend of shooting for my first short film. Then I got a PA job in Philly for a whole week on a professional short film that was like a $40,000 production, and I learned so much in that week, like being a production assistant on that film, that I took all that knowledge and then applied it to the rest of the shoot.
Yeah.
And like, so spacing shit out can like, especially like, it can be very like beneficial, allow you to like just learn a bunch of shit as you're doing it.
Absolutely. You know? And I'll say, I worked on a series that I co-created called Omega Fish Corp last year. And it was the first time that I directed something, or in this case, I co-directed it with a man named Matthew Giacalone, who goes by GMAC online. He's a very funny comedian. And it was the first time that I directed something where I wasn't the cinematographer and I wasn't basically doubling his crew. I was acting, but I was also directing. And so I got familiar with new equipment and new things to edit with. And it expedited the process of finishing Mass State Lottery. And so that was a very beneficial step I had to basically go through in order to make sure that this movie was going to be as good as possible. So that's absolutely true in the case. Is you can, you can explore some other terrain and bring it back to the project you've been working on, and it's going to improve because of it.
Yeah, not everything has to be like your fucking passion project. Like sometimes you just got to do other shit, like other like gigs and shit for money and for like experience, like with stuff. Like not everything has to be like a giant passion project.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you look back at Jackie Chan's Police Story 1 and 2. It took them like years to make those movies because they were doing them on their own. They didn't have stunt doubles or anything. So if someone's falling from like a shopping mall escalator and they break their leg, all right, well then production's paused for 3 weeks or 4, whatever.
Yeah, or if someone has to smoke a cigarette within a minute and they don't smoke, and the production has to stop for an hour so that they can recover. They can do that too.
Yeah, this is what happened with Hans during the second shoot. Hans, I told him, listen, all you got to do, we're shooting in slow motion. It's gonna be high frame rate, right? Just take a long drag of the cigarette, and that's it. And Hans like inhaled the whole cigarette. He did that, and it just burnt, and then he was sick for an hour after. He was heaving in the backseat of a car.
He felt, he probably had he felt like he had like too much McDonald's and got the acid reflux in there, and like your body feels like fucking like acid and shit.
I was sweating cold. I was salivating, and it was the middle of winter too.
That
so
was fucking
just awful, just horrible. And the worst part is that because I think I was the only one in that whole crew that didn't smoke, because I kept getting people coming up to me just being like, okay, dude. And I was like, no, like I still feel like shit. And it's like, all right, like we understand. It's like, no, I'm still over here like dizzy and shit. But yeah, that's part of the good things about having your buddies work with you, or they can just complain and just abuse them like that, right?
Yeah. You had asked earlier too how Hans had managed being in front of the camera, behind the camera, I'd say Hans's biggest asset as a producer on the film is being able to give a no bullshit, clear cut analysis of what's working and what's not working. Hans was definitely the closest confidant I had in sharpening the film up in post-production, and also sifting through things during the principal photography phase.
So
you can. Well, I think that's the one of the benefits that I think you lose when you start getting people around you that only agree with you, which is that critical point of well, because especially with something that I've been working on for almost 5 years now, like he's been editing this thing for so long that there's going to be things that he doesn't see, or things that maybe he thinks work or are evident, but for the viewer wouldn't be, because they haven't been editing the movie for a long time. So you kind of have to be for the better of the movie that way. But at the same time, like, I don't think at any point there was anything that terrible, like at no point there was anything that was like bad quality or anything. It was just things that didn't work for one reason or another. But it's not like I was, just telling you that something fucking sucks or anything like that. It was just like little tweaks or little things that we needed to fix. But yeah, but you kind of need that, if you want to make the best project possible. Because if you just have people that are going to agree with you, then you'll make a movie for yourself, and then no one else would be able to enjoy it, really. Which is not bad, I guess. But for, I think, a project like this, where it's like your first project and you want to have a best image possible out there, like this is probably the best way to do it, just with like constructive criticism like that.
And I'll add to that, because it took so long, there's now the added weight of responsibility that I feel personally, with this being Buddy Duress's last film, that I can't deliver anything that's going to be subpar or disparaging to his acting career. I really gotta make sure that this is bulletproof, and I feel like the version that exists right now is that. So there's that, and it's kind of a sad thing with that. And then also there's other actors that have experienced tragedies and everything else that have been in the film in the years since, and it's a great reason for never taking 4 years to do a film, is you don't know what the future is gonna unfold with, and what kind of new context is going to be added to the project that you're working on.
What was it like working with him, and how did he get involved?
I met Buddy in late 2022. I wrote the role in the script of the primary missing boy's older brother with him in mind in 2019. And then I found out, he robbed a bank. And he's in Rikers now, or they actually didn't put him in Rikers. I think they put him upstate. And so I was like, all right, there goes that idea. And then we shot the movie. And in 2022, somehow, I previewed a version of the film to some people who were in the cast and crew. And I was like, here's what it looks like so far. I think we're missing some elements here. And I went back to the script and I was like, okay, we have this brother character we never shot anything with. It's just kind of a deleted scene in the script. What if I rework this? What if we do something with this? And then I had the idea of, all right, well, it's been a while since 2019. You don't get that long for, I don't think he was armed, unarmed bank robbery. Let me see if he's out of prison. And he wasn't out of prison yet, but I found his real name and I wrote him in prison. And I was like, Buddy, but his real name, Michael Stathis. I was a big fan of yours in Good Time and Private Chat and all these great films, great independent films in New York that he wound up doing. I have this script. I wrote this character with you in mind. I'd love to talk about it when you get out of prison, if possible. And he wrote me back pretty quick. We're doing a system called JPay, which is like an email to letter that they send the inmates, and we communicated a lot through there, and then all correspondence dried up suddenly. I was like, all right, well, there goes that. And then on New Year's Eve 2022, I get a text message out of the blue from just some random number that said, hey Jay, I'm out of prison, let's link up, let's talk. And it was Buddy. And I was like, oh wow, okay, 2023 is going to be off to a banger start. Or sorry, no, it
Hell
wasn't
yeah.
2023. It was 2021 into 2022. So I was like, wow, okay, this is going to be exciting. And as it turned out, Buddy and his family lived 10 minutes from me. So I literally just walked up the street and I was like, oh, hey, Buddy. And he didn't look like Buddy Duress from the movies. He had a bit of weight on him from prison. He had a beard and everything. I was like, all right, this is new Buddy Duress. We have to get rid of this. We got to get you back to your filming condition. And he was a really sweet, down-to-earth guy who shared a lot of very interesting stories. He seemed kind of shy at first, seemed kind of nervous, which is I did not expect. You watch him in any movie, he's this big, loud, extravagant New York character. And then by the second time I met him, he was more that version. So as we got deeper into production, that Buddy came out, and it was very clear, oh, the guy in the movies is actually the real guy. And that's also what was his downfall with the bank robbery, because Good Time is based on his prison journals and his ideas. And they used that for the film. And he was telling me all about this. I was like, that's insane. So like the masks and everything, and then the whole, and it played out the same exact, and he falls down like he fell down in the movie. It's this weird mirroring of that film and what actually happened. So we shot with Buddy in, I think it was January of 2022. And I had a very kind of light friendship with Buddy. His world was just totally different from mine. And we fell out of contact. I found out we fell out of contact because he was arrested something like 17 times over 2022 for petty crimes. And they kept throwing him out. We got in touch again to shoot more with Buddy in December of 2022. So almost a whole year later. And he was like, I'm down to do it. I got to give you a heads up. I've lost a bunch of weight. I was like, okay. And Buddy was kind of beefy. You're going to see it in the movie. I took for granted how much weight he lost, because when he sent me a picture, I was like, oh, fuck. This is Buddy from all of these movies that you remember. So we have Buddy at like 190 pounds, which he was kind of a shorter guy. So that was notable. And then we have Buddy at like 120 pounds. And that is very stark difference. So I said, all right, Buddy, here's what we're going to do. You're going to play two characters in the movie now, and keep your beard. Keep your beard this time. So he plays the older brother of the missing boy. And then he also plays the roommate / current boyfriend of the missing boy, to try and give some, you know, little connective tissue.
That's going to be interesting. Damn.
And at the same time too, so his character when he's playing the older brother is this bruiser named Ivan Amari, and half of that takes place in prison. Half of that is a flashback in time, because he's like the first suspect that comes to my character Rathke's mind of, okay, it was probably somebody close to Justin. Let's go to the older brother. The older brother's got a track record of violent crimes, and he's kind of heavy there. He's wearing a leather jacket. He looks very Italian, although he was Greek. And then we meet the roommate, and the roommate is very skinny, looks a hell of a lot older. Buddy was looking pretty rough during the later times that I had met him. And I had him keep the beard, had him keep his glasses that he had, to make it as distinguished as possible, these two versions. And then I also became obsessed with the unmade Jerry Lewis film, The Day the Clown Cried. And so I was like, you know what we're going to do too? We're going to make this character, the roommate character, and his part-time, he's a clown. And so I'm going to interview you as Rathke as a clown. And we recreated Jerry Lewis's makeup on him for that character. And I think he looks fantastic in the movie with that. And it's just a thing, you know, just kind of spur of the moment. Like, yeah, I want to see you as a clown. So you're going to be a clown today. And I got a picture here of me and him at the wrap. And, you know, the face paint that he put on, you needed a makeup wipe to take it off. And I didn't. He just ran off to the bathroom as soon as we finished. I was like, you can't do that. Don't put water. And then you see his face when he was like leaving. And it was just like, he tried to wash it off using water and soap. And what it did was it blended it in even more. And so he looked like, you know, not to be ethnically offensive, he looked like one of the African tribes, you know, where they spread the white makeup on, and his eyebrows looked all white. And it was just like this very crazy version of Buddy Duress. And then we had a PA who was responsible for bringing him back to Queens, and Buddy was just like, hey, can I take this bottle of think it was like Jack Daniels or something. It's like 11 in the morning. Hey, can I take this bottle of Jack Daniels? I was like, you know what, buddy? Merry Christmas. You take that bottle of Jack Daniels and enjoy. And the PA, he told the PA about midway en route to Queens, actually, hey, can we go to the Bronx? Can we just go to the Bronx? Which is like terrible and crime. And the word from the PA was, you know, he was in such a, and he was like drinking the bottle in the passenger seat, and he got out of the car, and then he smashed the bottle on the ground outside of this very shady looking house, and was like, Happy New Year to the guy, and just walked off. And it was an experience for that PA that day.
Was that last time? That's the last time, right?
That's the last time I saw Buddy.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's quite a fucking story. And from what you're explaining, I can tell like this movie is going to be very interesting as well.
Yeah,
so,
it's
like,
pretty all over.
Are you the private investigator in this? Like, who's the private investigator character?
Yeah, my character is Richard Rathke, who's the private investigator hired to look into the disappearance of the missing boy. And Rathke has an older partner at the detective service named William Evans, who's played by Nicholas Joroff, and he's kind of the seasoned detective. And I wanted to make it so that these two detectives, because you always see a private investigator in a movie and they're like smooth, they're Humphrey Bogart, they're Elliot Gould, they're cool or whatever. I was like, yeah. I'm going to make these two private detectives sex offenders. They're both sex offenders, and that's why they have to do this work. So
that's crazy.
My guy, it's alluded to doing some bad stuff. We don't really say it explicitly, but you see him get arrested and you see some AIM logs. And then Nick's character, Evans, has to resign from the police force for hitting on a cadet or something, which you see in the beginning as well. And so I was like, I want this to be like very transparent. These are seedy bad guys who take advantage of their clients. And then something bad is going to happen to one of them. And Rathke is going to be given the option to pursue this case and build a new future for himself from that. So I always I never like just like straight up good guys.
Yeah, like Chinatown, just like
the
good old boy.
Yeah, I think there's a place for that, absolutely. But I don't know if I could play that. I think I look to I don't know. Me and Hans,
and what's Hans
guys like us. Hans is worse. Hans is a much worse guy. So Hans is actually one of the two antagonists to the film. And he's probably the principal antagonist, I would say, since he's the main co-star, or actually really one of the stars. You're probably in it almost as much as I am. And he's a bad dude. You should talk about your character.
Just a driver. I'm just I'm a driver that drives him around. That's, you know, a friendship blooms there from out of nowhere, and then, you know, driving.
Well, I mean, how would you describe Devlin the man, Devlin Cabrera?
Very silly, very, very kind, a very nice guy during the day, and then you know, just like everyone, there's some darkness to it. But I think it's very, very friendly, very easygoing with everyone. I think it's There is an interview that we did on a public access show in Boston where I think you can get a good idea of who the characters are.
Oh yes. So this is something we got to figure out what the hell to do with this. This was not in the movie. We were thinking like we became kind of infatuated with this public access host in Massachusetts named Harrison Young, and we wound up watching so many of his episodes, and his like interview style became a favorite of ours. And we were just like, you know what? We started talking about it on our podcast, and I was like, you know what we should do? We should try and infiltrate his show as the characters from the movie. Do you think he would believe that? And so we did that, and he did believe it. And there's an episode out there on YouTube.
1000% he believed it. He was like, which one of you two is the detective? Which one of the, and just like he believed everything we said.
Oh yeah.
Even because I thought he might be playing a character, or he might at the end of it just be like, okay guys, like, you know, but no, he like treated us like if we were the characters from the beginning to like when we left. He had no idea that we were playing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I remember we walked into that and like you were nervous. You started to get nervous about it.
Oh, I was like, so nervous because I thought we were gonna get found out, and then it just
Yeah.
everything just kind of just rolled. We just went with it.
Yeah,
and
honestly,
it was a lot of
it
fun.
was such a good memory, such a good time playing these characters in real and just like having to sell it. It was a very interesting and out of my wheelhouse and probably out of Hans's wheelhouse moment. But then we felt bad after because he was like, you know, that was one of the best shows I've ever had. That was, you know, and we became part of the intro. He added us to the intro for his show.
That's
I hope
crazy.
he never finds out. I'm sure he will.
Yeah.
He's a big movie guy, I guess. He got kicked off the set of like a Spielberg, Amistad, I think it was, some Spielberg movie that filmed in New England. So you might find out eventually.
That's perfect. That's fucking perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's where is it that you can find it? What is the community channel?
Oh God, it was like Easton or Brockton. It was some Western Massachusetts public access network, but he uploads all the episodes to YouTube.
Send me the link later, and I'll put it in the description.
Okay.
What's in the future for you guys in general though that you could speak on before we wrap this up?
Ooh.
Well, we're planning a trip for the end of the year where I can go up there, and we're planning on shooting the next project, and then also hopefully be able to show the movie in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
So for now, at least until the end of the year, that's kind of what the plan is so far, I think.
Yeah, we're looking to have a screening at least in November for Mass State Lottery, probably in New York. And that is the plan with that for now, while I feel out distribution options, because I'd really like to not do that myself. I'd like to get a nice paycheck for all our hard work, and Hans can get a little piece of that, and the other guys can get a piece of that, you know, so that would be nice. But for the meantime, I am planning to shoot a new film in November called Cringe Lord. And
yeah, I saw something about that. Yeah,
I've got a almost full cast at this point. The script is pretty much locked, and that'll shoot in Boston and New York, kind of similar to Mass State Lottery. And then we also have Omega Fish Corp, which is going to be a series that'll be coming out hopefully soon. We had an arrangement originally, and I can't really talk too much about it, with a distributor called Massacre Video, but for whatever reason, we managed to get it back, and we're going to be doing an alternative plan with the release of that. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be very funny. That's got a very talented cast of myself, Matt Giacalone, Ryan Katsu Rivera, Jack the Perfume, National Salome, this young up-and-comer Paige Garcia, who's going to be in a movie, the 3-2 Pull Down with Corey Feldman, and I have a small role in that as well. So there's going to be a lot that's coming in the next couple of months, and I think it's going to be an exciting November.
Hell yeah, and hopefully I can make it to the premiere.
Well, you are definitely you're certainly invited, my friend. If where are you based out of?
I'm from Delaware, but right now I'm at Temple University in Philly.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
all
you're
right.
there.
Yeah, you're not too far then. All right, that would definitely be doable. I was gonna say, I hate to break it to you, I don't think we're ever screening this fucking thing in Delaware. I think that's the last state on the list.
You know, there's a fan who used this dude named William Girardi. You know who that is?
Yeah, I know Will Girardi. God bless him and his new kidney. That's what I'll say. Man,
I had him on the podcast a while ago. Like I was like, we're homies.
Yeah. He's going through it. Yeah.
He just finally got back to normal. It seems like he's a very talented director and artist. So
you seen The Perfect Wife?
Yes. Yeah.
I interviewed him for that, and I was just like mind blown.
That is awesome. Trip, that short film he released. I would definitely recommend that to anybody listening to this, especially if you like my stuff. He's on a similar wavelength. I wanted to get Kyle Girardi to direct Omega Fish Corp season 2. Because I think he would, that type of thing would be so up his alley. But he seems like he's just getting back into the swing of things now that he's healthy again. And I think he's working with Sam Hyde again. Yeah, he's always working with them, and he always has some personal project too that involves a lot of animation. He was telling me about. But he does a lot of animation shit as well. But very multi-talented guy.
For sure. Well, thank yous for coming on the show. We appreciate it. And like, comment, share, subscribe to my shit. The people watching this, check out both of their work. They're doing some special stuff here. And again, thank you.